Eric Carr was born on July 12, 1950 in New York City. His birth name was Paul Charles Caravello. He was the powerful drummer in the band Kiss from 1980 to 1991. He replaced original drummer Peter Criss. His character on stage was the Fox. To me, he always seemed like a cool guy who was living the dream. He formed his first band called the Cellarmen in 1965. He then played with various small bands that went nowhere. He considered quitting music. He was working as an appliance repair guy until he heard Kiss needed a new drummer. He nailed the audition and soon he was touring with the band. He chose the stage name Eric Carr. Originally, he wanted to be called Rusty Blade. The band basically told him he couldn't use that one. He became frustrated over the fact that he was just a paid employee with no say in what happened with the band. He dated Playboy playmate Carrie Stevens the last 4 years of his life. He never married and had no children. In early 1991, he was diagnosed with heart cancer, which is very rare. He was coughing up blood and a doctor told him the bad news. Instead of waiting for the outcome of his surgeries, Kiss replaced him with Eric Singer. Eric Singer played drums on the song God Gave Rock and Roll to You, but Eric Carr appeared in the video with a gigantic wig on. His girlfriend Carrie said the band pressured him to resign while he was lying on his deathbed. He did not. They said he could come back when he was 100% healthy. Eric suffered an aneurysm and a brain hemorrhage, and the cancer spread. Paul Stanley has regrets over how they handled the situation. They did pay his hospital expenses. Eric died in 1991 from cancer. He was 41 years old. Karen Carpenter was born on March 2, 1950 in New Haven, Connecticut. She was a singer and a musician. She formed the band called the Carpenters with her older brother named Richard. They released their debut album in 1969. They sold over 100 million records and won 3 Grammys. Some of their songs included They Long to Be Close to You, Rainy Days and Mondays, We've Only Just Begun, Top of the World, For All We Know, Superstar, and Goodbye to Love, just to name a few. What was your favorite song? John Lennon and Paul McCartney were fans of her voice. In 1963, her family moved to Downey, California. She took a liking to the drums and soon immersed herself in practicing and getting better. She also loved singing. Her choir director said her voice was a remarkable instrument. She considered herself a drummer who sang. She played drums in a few different bands with Richard before the Carpenters. They were signed to a record deal with Karen singing and playing drums. She would eventually be moved to the front of the stage as a singer only. This is when she started having problems. She felt she looked too heavy. She changed her diet and started working out, but it didn't change her opinion. She had an operation in the late 70s to fix a hearing impairment. She recorded a solo album in 1980, but it wasn't released until 1996, since at the time it didn't align with the Carpenters' image. She had anorexia nervosa for years, which she denied. It was plain for everyone to see. She tried to get help, but it was too late. She was married once and had no children. She died in February of 1983 from anorexia. She was 32 years old. Joey Jordison was born on April 26, 1975 in Des Moines, Iowa. His birth name was Nathan Jonas Jordison. He was the original drummer, a songwriter, and a founding member of the band Slipknot. He played on their first 4 albums. He was a beast. John Bonham, Keith Moon, and Peter Criss were major influences on his playing. While working at a gas station before his success, he dreamed of making it big. He would later play with the bands Murder Dolls, Scar the Martyr, Vimic, and Sinsanum. He was also a talented guitar player. He started calling Slipknot fans maggots. His nickname was Superball because he'd get so worked up that he'd be bouncing off the walls. He joined the Pale Ones in 1995, which would become Slipknot. Their self-titled debut was released in 1999. It was Joey's idea to change the name to Slipknot. In 2004, at the Download Festival in England, Joey played with Metallica because Lars was suffering from exhaustion. He killed it. He said it was a dream come true. In 2013, it was announced that Joey was leaving the band. He claimed he was fired and the band thought he was on drugs. It was later revealed that he suffered from transverse myelitis, a neurological disorder that causes damage to the nervous system. He wasn't able to play the drums like he used to. He recovered thanks to physical therapy. He hoped for a reunion one day. He died peacefully in his sleep in 2021. The reason was not made public. He was 46 years old. Hal Blaine was born on February 5, 1929 in Holyoke, Massachusetts. His birth name was Harold Simon Belsky. You might not know his name, but I guarantee you've heard his drumming. Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys called Hal the greatest drummer ever. He was a session drummer who played on thousands of recordings including 40 #1 songs. Be My Baby, I Got You Babe, Strangers in the Night, and Mrs. Robinson are a fraction of the hits he played on. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the year 2000. He was most active during the 60s and 70s. He was part of the famous Wrecking Crew session musicians including Glenn Campbell and Leon Russell. Hal was the one who named them that. He worked with Phil Spector a lot. He did play live shows, but he preferred the studio. He worked with Elvis, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, the Everly Brothers, Sam Cooke, John Denver, Simon and Garfunkel, the Mamas and the Papas, the Beach Boys, the Carpenters, the Ronettes, Sonny and Cher, and the Monkees, among many others. He was married 5 times and had 1 child. He died in 2019 from natural causes. He was 90 years old. Jimmy the Rev Sullivan was born on February 9, 1981 in Huntington Beach, California. He was a founding member, a songwriter, and the original drummer in the band called Avenged Sevenfold. He also sang backup and occasionally played piano. The Rev was short for Reverend Tholomew Plague. He helped form Avenged Sevenfold in 1999. An article about him in Revolver said Sullivan was, in many ways, his band's biggest personality, a fun-loving goofball who brought an air of mischief and unpredictability to the group. Known for his incredible drumming, his last drum kit had 3 bass drums, 11 cymbals, and 7 toms. Vinnie Paul once said Jimmy was one of the most creative drummers of recent times. He put his rudimental upbringing into his music, which made his music very challenging and dangerous. While growing up, he was neighbors with future bandmate Emma Shadows, and he became friends with guitarist Sinister Gates starting around 10 years old. He was in a few different bands before Avenged Sevenfold, and he had a side project called Pinkly Smooth. He never married and had no children. He died in September of 2009 from a drug overdose. He had these in his system: oxycodone, oxymorphone, diazepam, nordiazepam, and alcohol. He also had an enlarged heart. The band said Jimmy was not only one of the world's best drummers, but more importantly, he was our best friend and brother. He was 28 years old. Nick Menza was born on July 23, 1964 in Munich, Germany. His dad was stationed there for the US Army. He is most known for being the drummer in Megadeth from 1989 to 1998. He recorded drums on these Megadeth albums: Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, and Cryptic Writings. At age 18, he was in a band called Rhodes with Randy Rhoads' brother. He was in a few other small bands before becoming the drum tech for then Megadeth drummer Chuck Beeler. After Chuck was fired by Dave Mustaine supposedly for his cocaine addiction, Nick became their drummer. In 1998, doctors found a benign tumor on one of his knees and he had surgery to remove it. While recovering, the band found a replacement for their tour and Nick was informed his services were not needed anymore. He became an accomplished woodworker. In 2007, he had an accident with a power saw and almost lost his arm. In 2016, he died from a heart attack while on stage with his band called Ohm. He was 51 years old.